There are certain games that just stick in your brain. Games you played as a kid, forgot about for years, and then just randomly remember one day. For me, Monsters Inc. Scare Island, or Scream Team depending on your region, is one of those games. So naturally, I thought to play it again and see if it withstood the sands of time. So let's dive in. Does Monsters Inc. Scare Island still hold up?
Mike, where's
Yeah. Sure, step aside, kid. We're in a...
For those unfamiliar with the game, it was released in 2001, around the same time the film came out. According to my family, I used to watch this movie so often that it's been burnt into their brains so much that even looking at the cover art is just enough trauma to set them off. Anyhow, funnily enough, I actually never owned this game fully. I only had a demo disc which included it, but it wasn't the full thing. But it was still one of those games I'd constantly go back to, always wanting more. The premise is simple. Before Mike and Sulley were professional scarers, they had to train for their job, and that's the entire setup. It's like a sort of prequel to the original movie. There's no elaborate plot, no deep Pixar storytelling, just good old-fashioned, here you are, now go and collect stuff and complete the levels. I mean, it's totally suffice for what a kid's game should be, but you know, sometimes a bit of backstory goes a long while. Now, visually it's very PS1. The models are rough, the textures are flat, and everything has that weird melted plastic look. But to be fair, it's pretty standard for the time, and honestly, the game's bright colours and cartoonish world fit the Monsters Inc. vibe surprisingly well, if you can look past Mike Wazowski's head, that is.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
In the game there are 3 worlds you can travel to, all consisting of 4 levels in them. The themes don't really have anything to do with the movie, but they're at least more creative compared to other kids' licensed games. They'll have you travel through urban cities, desert-type levels, and winter worlds. Upon entry to each level, the game lets you choose which character you want to play as. Though the choice is small, it's a nice touch. You can pick from either Mike or Sulley. On paper, they all play the same, but Sulley is definitely the one you want to choose. Mike feels slippery, and due to his smaller size, it makes it harder to control him for the platforming aspects of the game. Both characters have a jump, double jump, spin attack, and a ground pound, and that's pretty much it. Nothing groundbreaking, but it's serviceable enough to get the job done. Each level has 3 main goals. Scare enough training bots called nerves to earn a bronze medal, collect 10 tokens for a silver medal, and for the last one, scare all nerves for the gold medal. The nerves are these robots meant to simulate children. They're similar to the training dummies you see in the film. To scare them, you'll have to collect canisters the game calls primordial ooze. They fill your scare meter up in the bottom left of the screen, and once you've collected enough, the meter will have one of its coloured segments filled in. These colours indicate how much ooze you'll need in order to scare each nerve. Blue ones require the blue part filled, and the red ones need a full bar. The others are spread out throughout the middle. If you don't have your bar filled up to the corresponding colour of the nerve, you won't be able to scare it, which leads to backtracking around the level, gathering as much ooze as you possibly can. Something that's quite fun about these nerves is the scare animations they play out. There's a small list the game pulls from, but they're a nice touch and play into the character's personality as well. But unfortunately, they don't add enough to keep this part of the game from being mundane. If you go for the 100% on this game, you'll end up doing this 96 times, and to be honest with you, once you get past the 10th, it gets pretty boring from that point on. I'm well aware this is a kid's game, and it shows. Repetitive gameplay loops, extra lives are everywhere, and enemies are easily avoided, and you don't even lose progress when you die. Sulley or Mike just shakes their head and says,
"Something's not right."
and then you're right back in the action. Each level takes about 10 minutes to beat, 15 at max if you're going for everything. And I get it. It's an easygoing, low-stakes, laid-back experience. However, there is one part of the game I haven't talked about, and it's seemingly the only challenge the game has to offer. Those being the races you'll have to do upon completing each of the worlds. I'll confess, they aren't hard. Like, not at all. They're the only time I actually failed in the game though. The premise is simple. Follow the track down and collect as many tokens as possible. But the only trouble I had with it is Randall, the character you race against. He has a large hitbox, so he'll bump you off the track if you get too close. It's barely an issue, but I could see it being annoying and possibly hard for anyone of the target audience to face. And well, with everything basically covered other than the FMV movie clips slapped in around the place, it's safe to say this game does well for a movie tie-in. Most of the time these movie games end up being a total disaster. I'm sure you've stumbled into one at some point, and you've probably heard about the E.T. incident. And well, if you haven't, supposedly the E.T. license game for the Atari 2600 was so atrocious that stores couldn't even sell it. So they sent all the unsold copies back to the manufacturer, to which then they ended up being dumped in a landfill somewhere in a desert. Monsters Inc. for PS1 isn't exactly a great game, but it's not E.T. on the Atari bad. It's the kind of medium you'd hope to expect with a licensed title. If you have nostalgia for it, it's probably worth revisiting, or maybe you're introducing a young kid into games. This would probably make for a great entry-level platformer. I think it's safe to say this game has withstood the sands of time, and it gets a pass from me. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you ever play this game as a kid? And tell me what your favourite movie tie-in game is. Let me know in the comments below, and if you made it this far, thank you so much. Laters.
Rupert's Retro, ain't no time like now. Rupert's Retro, oh what a scene where yesterday's magic meets today's dream. Rupert's Retro, the place to be for timeless joy and jubilee.